Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. It's still dark right now, running about 30 minutes late because I stayed up late. I was at a college baseball game, Xavier Musketeers at Southeastern Louisiana University Lions. So it was a hard fought game, but it lasted over 3 hours, unfortunately. All right, I have two 40% alcohol Canadian blended whiskeys. And this is called Gibson's Finest Rare. Now they have changed the label since it was first introduced. Now the trademark data says that this came out in 2015. The trademark was first used in 2015. I bought this later on after that, and they had changed it from the older label. The older label was all right, but it wasn't as nice as this one. So there's a Canadian motif, the deer, the beaver, the maple leaf, all the stuff you see usually. This one is aged 12 years. It says aged and bottled in Ontario by William Grant and Sons. But it does not say produced in Ontario. So it's a sourced whiskey somewhere in Canada. There's some tasting notes on the back, but they're so tiny. They're just talking about how Canadian whiskey has to be aged at least 3 years, but this one's so much better because it's 12, and that does help. It's embossed. You could feel the emblem on the back. It's got this device here showing 12-year age. It's glass, Canadian whiskey glass, not plastic. I was looking at Total Wine. Oh, and it's a real wooden cap. I was looking on Total Wine, and they were saying that they got it for $65, about $65.99. Now, this is Canadian Leaf. They have it for $15.99. $15.99. True story. Canadian Lake, sorry. Now, Canadian Leaf from the same distillery, Oak Park Distilling in Baltimore, Maryland, they have identical labels. The label is the same in every way, except one says lake and one says leaf. I've been wondering about that for 10 years. Like, why would they do that? They used to have it on a website, and they would talk about, of course, how great it was and all of that. Now it's with natural flavors. Real cork here, by the way, real cork. Canadian whiskey is allowed to have natural flavor added, and they don't even have to tell you about it, but they're saying it. Okay. Now, some people take things to the extreme, and I'll watch video reviews, and they'll say, I hate Canadian whiskey because it's got flavoring in it. Back up. Allowed to have is not the same as having. Yeah, it's allowed to have natural flavors added. It's not required to have it. I don't know why that's hard to understand, but it seems to confuse some people. Okay. I noticed that the Gibson's is lighter. Light gold does not appear to have coloring added either. They're allowed to add caramel color. My hair is all messed up. I did wash it too. Well, I always keep my hair washed, but it's kind of wild, it's just wild hair. Okay. Now the Canadian Lake says nothing about natural, caramel coloring added. It just says natural flavor. So I'm assuming that there is no coloring added because that company is pretty good about telling you what they're adding. Like it'll say, I've got a brandy from them. Says brandy with natural flavors and caramel color. So they're pretty consistent on that disclosure. I did not pay $65.99 for Gibson's. I'm going to tell you what I paid, and it's going to sound like a monstrous lie. Brian Carpenter says, cheers, Jay. Cheers to you, clinking the mugs. Thanks for watching, Brian. No, I actually paid $9.99 for that full-size bottle. I was shocked when I saw it. They had a big stack. They call it a stud stack. And they had a sign, $9.99. And I'm looking like dazzled or confused. I said, I know this can't be right. $9.99. I never heard of Gibson's. Okay. It's just not something you see around here. And I'm thinking it's probably some cheap Canadian whiskey, but it didn't look like it. It wasn't like a plastic bottle. It was glass and like with the real cork and the wood cap. And I was like, I don't know what the story is on this thing, but for $9.99, was no way I was passing it up. Now, like I said, I didn't know what now later on when I got home that day, I said, let me do some online research. And I'm seeing this showing 60. That was years and years and years ago. 2019, 2018, probably 7 years ago, but they're showing 65 back then. I couldn't get over it. Could not get over it. So, is that something you should expect to see? Definitely not. Do I expect to ever see it again? Certainly not. Canadian whiskey prices going to go up. Well, that's what they're saying on the news. They also said that we will run out of oil by the year, 2000? They said that on the news all the time, back in like 1979. So the news coverage has a tendency to be sensationalistic, inaccurate, and they like to spread panic. That's my observation over the years. And they have an agenda, so they usually try to spin things to bolster the agenda. And we saw it with Yugoslavia, Iraq, 2014, 2004. And it goes back and back and back in history. It's the same old story. They hype it the way they want to hype it. My thinking, I could be wrong, obviously, but my thinking is they're probably going to work it all out, and then it won't much. It might end up being no tariffs for anybody, without Canada becoming the 51st state, like President Trump keeps saying. Like they said in the newspaper, it would really be 61 states because they have 10 provinces, and they would each be a state. But I'm thinking to myself, does he know that they have provinces? I don't think he knows a whole lot about Canada, although he grew up in a state next to Canada. Brian Carpenter says, okay. All right. So, yeah. So most Americans know basically nothing about Canada. They know it's a country. They don't really know where it is. They know the flag, they recognize the flag. But beyond that, I think a lot of Americans thought it was a state already. Like a lot of Americans think New Mexico, you need a passport to go to New Mexico because it's a foreign country. I'm not making that as a joke. That's the level of the thinking. Don't pick on America, though, because I was watching a news report from New Zealand, and they were stopping people on the street in New Zealand asking them, where was Australia? Now, that's obviously edited. They're going to only put in the stuff they want. But the people's responses were like, one person thought it was next to England. It's New Zealand. So I think it's next to England. Have you ever tried Ice Pick vodka? About the same price as New Amsterdam and Svedka. Find it smoother than some other dollar shots. Ice Pick. Okay, Wesley. This smells like grain, just typical grain. Normally, just like fermented and distilled grain. It doesn't smell like anything odd. Is it that different from Crown Royal in the aroma? Yeah, they're kind of like the same, It's like bourbons. You be smelling them, and people will claim, I know my bourbon. I know. Well, okay, smell 10 of them. Tell me which one's yours. Oh, yeah, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for your rhetoric. You say, I'm not using rhetoric. I'm asking you to smell the 10 bourbons and tell me which one is yours. Yeah, same here. Same. Maybe a little vanilla over here because they've been breathing out. So am I seeing a whole lot of difference on appearance? Well, the Gibson's a little more gold and the Canadian Lake's a little more amber. The aroma, more grain, possible vanilla, possible. Yes, Svedka. They got a local store here right now selling Svedka cheap. I don't need it. I'm not buying it, but it was a really great deal for a handle glass too. Big like this, $11.99. If I was in the market for vodka, I'd snatch it up right about now. Very oak. When I first opened this bottle years and years ago, it tastes like toothpicks to me. It was bitey, not smooth, and I didn't like it too much. I'll be honest. It was not appealing. As I sipped the bottle down through many taste challenges, it got better. And then I did a solo review, a revisit. It was like after 6 years. By the time I did the solo revisit, it was an A, a 95, 9.5 out of 10. You say, well, that's impossible. It couldn't change. I don't know the science. I don't know the science. I'm not a scientist. People ask me scientific questions, and I'll tell them I'm not a scientist, okay? I mean, I took science class in college and high school, but, you don't, that's minimal. But maybe it's been breathing. You see, I took the plastic shroud off the top of it, and then the cork is not too tight. I think the interaction of the oxygen. I know those birds are so loud, and they'll be in the trees next door cutting up, making racket. Wait till the crows wake up. This is vanilla. This is wedding cake icing, frosting, icing, whatever term you use. Now you say, well, I like wedding cake. I like a honey bun with a iced honey bun. Now, yesterday there was a discussion that I had with somebody between glazed and iced honey buns. But if that's what you like, think of it like a cereal. Like, let's think of like a breakfast cereal that is called wedding cake flavor. I'm making a joke. There probably is one called that. That's what this tastes like. Is it a bad flavor? Well, no, it's not a bad flavor, but it's pretty sweet. But then, of course, whiskey to me tastes like sugar water anyway. Any kind of whiskey tastes like sugar water to me, but at various levels. This one is full tilt sugar bomb. And that's probably why it's $15.99. Is it offensive and gross and horrible? No, the bottle is plastic and it looks cheap, and it's got this kind of fancy neck on it, which does look, when you see them in glass, and then some of these come in glass from this company, they look nice. In the 750s, they look nice. But this product's so cheap, even the 750s plastic. Now that's cheap. So it's about as low as you can go, unless you go to Walmart and get Caliber, which is even cheaper. $10.96 today at Walmart for the same size bottle. Canadian whiskey with natural flavor. IWA Distilling Company Limited. Tastes about like that one. So why pay the extra $5? I wouldn't. I'd get the Caliber. If I was really looking to go cheap, let's just get the Caliber. But honestly, I'm not really looking to go cheap. I just bought them because they were curiosity pieces. Like, people say, why you review that? I say, it exists. And some people got a channel and their philosophy is, I only review the best stuff. Okay. And I'm sure they're all great. And then you go watch the review. Oh, this is awesome. Oh, this is amazing. Oh, this is great. I mean, yeah, of course it is, because all the most expensive liquor or beer that you can find. So that's interesting. I mean, the review is credible, but I'm trying to figure out what's the point of it. It's like, okay, but I thought reviewing beer was like you try all the different beers and you give people an opinion of them. Like, does it make a difference if they're expensive, mid-range, or low? But if you don't address all the ranges, it's like, what's going on over here? What are we doing over here? Because that was my whole thing about the beer. That's why I started this channel in 2010. I was like, I see all this stuff in the store, and it's like a whole huge area full of beer, and they're all different prices. And my whole thinking was, but does it make a difference? As it turns out, it does. Not as big of a difference as people may assume, but it does make a difference. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to get to. I felt, oh, doesn't the alcohol evaporate, says Brian. Not to my knowledge, but like I say, science. If I find if I let a glass sit long enough, whether it's beer or a mixed drink, it doesn't smell the same when I drink it. I would still drink it, yes, and if it wasn't left out for more than a day, yeah. Yeah, I think the interaction with the air somehow changes it. And it's changed it for the better with Gibson's. Yeah, the skunky beer commercials. And that's not a good smell. But if you, like Stuart Pickard said, he used to do beer reviews. He said, if you let the beer set out on the counter or the table for 1 minute, the skunk will be gone. And I said, what is he talking about? Well, he had enough experience. So I started doing it. He's right. It's not really that big of an issue. But here's the issue right now. This Gibson's Finest is so much better than Canadian Lake. It's a pathetic joke. Knew I was getting that one right. So where does that get? That puts me at what, 9-2, I think. I got to go back and check. I know I have 2 losses, no ties. 9 wins. I think it's 9 wins, 2 losses, no ties. Not bad out of 11. But like I say, I have to double check. Canadian Lake. Is it a real competitor? Answer, no. Canadian Lake, is it a product worth seeking out? Answer, no. Canadian Lake, is it something you would give as a gift? Answer, no. Is it horrendous and to be avoided at all costs? Answer, no. It's something to play around with, if you don't take things too seriously and you're not too, wound up, high strung or whatever. Yes, it's all right. Gibson's. The answer for all the questions I just asked is the opposite. Yes, it'd be good as a gift. $65.99 for this handle. That would be a good gift. Yes, it's very nice. Yes, it lives up. Yes, it competes. And in fact, it'll probably win. But like I said, when I first opened it, it was not doing that well. So maybe that's why it was $9.99. Think about it along those lines. They tried it. They didn't like it. The sales were terrible. And the liquor store got the deal of the century, and they sold it for $9.99. They might have got the bottles for $8.99. All right. Maybe I only made 50 cents on each bottle, but what the heck, they made something. It didn't last in the store a week. It was gone in less than a week. You're not going to keep whiskey on the shelf that cheap. And it's just not possible. People are going to buy it. No matter what it is, and no matter how it looks, they're going to buy it. Take the chance. I know I did, and I'm glad I did. All right, so the winner, Gibson's Finest, as expected. And then I'll be back for Friday with another one. And it'll be another defeat for Canadian Lake. That is a guarantee. All right, bye-bye, everybody.